Right, so I'm here at RSA with Marc Maiffret of FireEye, one of the best-known researchers in security. Marc, let's talk a little bit about the Google attacks that everybody's been sort of talking about for about 2 months now. Everybody talks about it as this really sophisticated, ultra planned and organized attack, but the malware itself and the exploit were both pretty basic, right?
Yeah, I mean, people keep talking about the sophistication as kind of a overall levels of sophistication, and the reality is you got to kind of separate the exploit component and the malware component itself from the overall kind of coordination of targeting 33 plus. Now it's even larger than that that we're figuring out. But when you look at the exploit itself, I mean, the vulnerability being specific for Internet Explorer 6. Is obviously kind of, you could say, amateur. Same with the malware. There wasn't really anything kind of sophisticated, especially as it relates to kind of cybercrime and what we've seen with other botnet and other much more sophisticated modern malware. But the thing that is interesting is that even though the exploit and malware themselves were kind of unsophisticated, the fact that they just worked and the fact that that's all you really need, you didn't need the kind of James Bond gadgets to get in. But I think to call the attackers as overall, to call the attackers themselves as unsophisticated, I don't think that makes any sense, because I think given, again, the number of companies that they were able to target, successfully break into, and they knew exactly where they were going, they knew exactly where they were, what types of data and access that they were after.
And the Chinese angle has been played up a lot, which doesn't really seem like people have followed through on that. Google kind of used it as a little bit of a hammer to use on the Chinese government.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of speculation that it was the Chinese government. Have you seen or heard anything, any actual concrete evidence of that?
No, I mean, the most that we know is that it was initially a server in Taiwan, and then supposedly computers in China that were connecting to that server. I mean, all of those things are easy as far as being able to hop through other countries. The one thing that I think from information that they went after, the fact that they were going through Google to try to get access and information about people that were speaking out against China, human rights activists, those kind of things. Either that's some other foreign intelligence service that's really trying to make it look like that it was China, or it's kind of Occam's razor and it's the obvious answer that it was them. But I think that it's some teenager or some just kind of one-off rogue hacker that was just kind of fooling around or something like that, or coming from just a single university, I don't think that makes any sense based on the data that was stolen and the data that was accessed. It doesn't fit the profile.
So we always hear a lot about like these, super sophisticated pieces of malware, these banker trojans, all this kind of custom stuff that people write for these, attacks that they use. But this one essentially used an old vulnerability in like a browser that's 4 years out of date on an operating system that's 2 revs out of date. I mean, what does that tell us about the state of desktop security and the state of, attackers, their sophistication out there?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's amazing, given the kind of unsophistication and the old nature of, just like what you said, the browsers, the OS itself. Number one, shows that the legacy problem is still very much a problem even for major companies. But again, I think it doesn't really speak to the attackers' sophistication as much as that. I think that they knew exactly what they were doing. I think that they knew that they could do a basic level of obfuscation. You take what they did with the exploit and having some basic JavaScript obfuscation. They know that even here at RSA, that's going to walk past the majority of all the network-based intrusion prevention and other types of systems where they're working off of what they know about. And this was an exploit that, while was basic and kind of old in the nature, was unknown, and that's kind of all they needed.